Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to share my personal experience achieving a 99th percentile Mcat score. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Andrew George, and I love helping pre-meds like yourself get high Mcat scores. I personally scored in the 99th percentile, and I've helped several students achieve scores in the 100th percentile. For more Mcat tips, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and sign up for my free Mcat prep course at mcatselfprep.com. Okay, now I want to share with you my personal experience getting a 99th percentile score. It was the beginning of fall semester, and I was sitting in my microbiology lab class with my new lab buddies, when one of them started talking about the Mcat. At this point, the Mcat was the last thing on my mind, so I really wasn't paying too much attention. I figured that I would just study for a month before I took the test and do totally fine. But as my new friend started talking more and more about how much time he had spent studying for the Mcat, I began to wondering if my 1 month study plan wasn't going to fly. It turns out that this new friend of mine was a tutor for one of the major test prep companies, and he told me all about their program. It sounded pretty amazing, actually. They had lectures, study groups, private tutoring, review books, practice quizzes, practice exams, and the list went on. Despite the amazing benefits I saw in this program, there were two things holding me back. One, I didn't have the time to study for 20 hours a week according to the rigid study schedule of this program. I was taking 16 college credits, and I've always had to work really hard to achieve high grades in my classes. I also had a part-time job that required me to work 15 hours a week, and on top of this, I still needed more shadowing and volunteer hours for a medical school application. I didn't see how I was ever going to get everything done if I was required to study an extra 20 hours a week for the Mcat. Second of all, I didn't want to spend $3,000 or more on an Mcat prep course. I was already saving up money for the medical school applications, plane tickets for medical school interviews, and I didn't want to add an extra $1,000 to the bill. I was also a soon-to-be dad and knew that I would need the money for my new young family rather than spending it on a prep course. Due to these several concerns, I decided to just start studying on my own. I figured the best place to start would be to take a diagnostic exam, and so I took a full-length test. I currently don't recommend taking a full-length exam, but I do recommend taking at least a half-length exam as a diagnostic when you first start studying. I took the AMC unscored full-length and scored about 76% correct overall, and so I knew that I had a long way to go. Based on my results, I decided on a study plan, and I got to work. Because I was busy with school, I only had time to study about 30 to 60 minutes per week. Per day. But, some days I wouldn't even study at all. And during that fall semester, I worked on reading the Kaplan books, and I particularly focused on the subjects that I was currently studying in my classes. For instance, because I was in a biochemistry class, I started reading the biochemistry book from Kaplan before I would go to class each day. And I found that doing this helped me do better in the class, and it helped me know what to focus on during class so that I could do better on the Mcat. For instance, whenever the professor mentioned a topic that I saw in the book before I went to class, I'd pay extra careful attention knowing that what he was teaching could potentially help me on the Mcat. I highly recommend this strategy to anyone who's studying for the Mcat while taking their pre-med classes. As I read the Kaplan books, I did what I always have done in my college classes: make note cards. It is something that I swear by because I'm really bad at remembering things unless I see them multiple times. I also figured that this would be especially important for the Mcat because the Mcat covers such a vast amount of material. I highly recommend using note cards to study for the Mcat, and my note card making methods and review methods are all described in a different video. By the time winter break came around, I had only finished the biochemistry book and part of the behavioral sciences book. But during winter break, I sacrificed a few hours per day to study for the Mcat. I spent this time studying the biology Kaplan book because I knew that I was going to be taking a physiology class in the winter semester, and I figured it would be good to give myself a head start for that class, and that it would also help me with my Mcat progress. During the winter break, I also started doing 5 to 10 AMC practice problems per day. I didn't do super well at this point, only getting about 70% correct, but I knew that if I kept doing it over and over and over again, I would eventually get better. I continued doing this for the next 4 months, and I was able to get to the point that I was scoring between 90 and 100% on these practice problems. I don't currently recommend doing AAMC practice problems every day, but I do recommend doing them throughout the study process, and I outline how to use the AAMC practice problems as what I call AAMC mini exams in my free e-course. During the winter semester, I ramped up the amount of time that I was studying, and I was able to finish all the Kaplan books by the end of that semester. This gave me a full month of study time before my exam date. In my free prep course, I call this final month of Mcat studying Mcat Boot Camp. During this Mcat Boot Camp, I started reviewing all the note cards that I had made since I started studying for the Mcat. I made sure to mark note cards that I answered incorrectly so that I could review those note cards one final time during the final week before my test. I also started taking 2 full-length exams every week. I found that the non-AAMC practice tests were not very true to the actual test, and they were kind of not very accurate as far as predicting my Mcat score. But I do feel like they gave me a good amount of practice for the exam in that I was able to develop stamina for the test. It was at this point during the final month that I discovered the Khan Academy videos. Because it was produced in partnership with the AAMC, I saw a really high value in it, and I felt like it did a really good job covering all the concepts in a very concise and easy to follow manner. I decided to watch the entire video collection, and it took me just a couple weeks, and I watched all the videos at 2 times the speed, pausing to make note cards whenever I learned something new. The entire Khan Academy video collection is embedded into my free e-course because I highly recommend it above many study materials. During my final week of Mcat studying, I reviewed my Khan Academy note cards and any note cards that I had marked for future review. I also took a couple more AAMC practice tests, and I scored above a 520 on both of them, so I knew that I was ready. On test day though, I was super nervous, and I actually felt terrible after finishing my test. I seriously contemplated voiding my exam because I felt like I had bombed the physics-chemistry section. But despite those feelings, when I got my score back, I was extremely surprised because I had achieved my goal, the 99th percentile. After my excitement had died down a little bit, I decided to look into becoming an Mcat tutor, and I got hired by one of the major test prep companies. I ended up backing out though because I decided to create my free Mcat prep course. I spent hours studying the experiences of those who achieved high scores on the exam like myself. I read the experiences of over 50 students that scored above the 95th percentile. And through all of my research, I discovered patterns that led me to conclude that students who really succeed on the Mcat don't necessarily spend thousands of dollars on a fancy prep course. In fact, students who really excel don't even use an expensive study program at all. They simply use a wide variety of resources, base their studying around the AAMC practice problems, and implement good study habits. I took what I learned from all this research and I consolidated it down into my free prep course. My free prep course will walk you through the study habits of those who achieve top Mcat scores. It will help you develop your own study plan, guiding you through the entire study process in an easy-to-follow, step-by-step manner. You can get started today by visiting mcatselfprep.com. And if you have any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here to help. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like. And for more Mcat tips, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and sign up for my free Mcat prep course at mcatselfprep.com. And if you have any ideas for future videos, or you have questions or comments, feel free to comment those below. I look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you next time.